Right, this is another video I'm going to do, and it's leading on from the last series of videos I did yesterday, which showed the emulator loading in program code into a Galaxian board and running them, basically with no program ROMs at all on the board. You can actually load them in as bin files, so they could be main files, they could be ones you've generated yourself, ones you've copied from other games, etc., and you've just stored them as bin files. And you can run them on obviously the game board you're using as long as they're compatible. Now, one of the games I showed you was a silly little game which I knocked up just to try out different things, which is called Bricks, and this is it here, as you can see, running. I'm not playing it. The bat is moving under a sort of a pseudo random movement, and the ball just bounces around. As you can see, you get 5 balls. When you run out, it goes back to 5, and every time it knocks a brick out, the score goes up. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you a little bit on how I actually made this game using the tester to do it, and I'll show you how you can actually load the game in from assembly code that you type up in a text file. The tester has a facility to compile it and assemble the code. It's always had a disassembler built into it, which is now used extensively in the emulator software, but it's now got an assembler built in as well. So that's the game running. I'm going to just stop that by typing stop, and you'll see the ball will stop, or the 0 will stop, because I haven't got the actual real graphics, it's just using letters. So that's that, and that's my Galaxian board as I had before. And if I got to the tester screen, you can see that's what I currently have. And I had already loaded it in as a bin file, which I showed in the last videos. Now, the program that I use to do this is called bricks.txt. You have to make a program or a file in a text format, which I've done using Leaf. You can do it in any text editor, as long as it stores it as a text file, you're fine. And text, txt, must be capitals for this to work. And that, as you can see looking at this, is effectively my assembly code that I've typed up. Now you can type this up on anything. It doesn't have to be on the tester, it could be on anything, and you can load it in. There is a certain syntax you have to follow when doing this. If you get it wrong, the tester will tell you things are wrong and it will show you the errors. You can see that's all ZAT assembly code. So to go through it, first I just put that. Anything like that it will just ignore, so you can use those as comments. These are effectively static variables, so you know when you put 0000 and a space and a hash start, the start will become a label effectively that's set to address 0, and these are all the same. So you can see, for example, video RAM, I've labelled it up as 5000 hex, which is where it is on the Galaxian board, etc. So they're all labels. You then type main, but that's not even necessary. I just do it for neatness. And the other important things are you have things like org, for example, dollar as a command. So $org and then a space and ampersand, that's the address. So org is the start address. So every time the tester reads one of those lines like that, it will actually set the address of the tester to that address. So what I wanted to do is start it so as it loads it at address 0. So that tells it. Start in curly brackets is very important because that tells the tester that's the start of a block of code, and you can have multiple blocks of code within your test program, and then you just go through. So you have start, and then you have to have a colon. Every time it reaches a colon, it knows there's a line of code afterwards. So you have all the assembly code. Any number has to be prefixed by an ampersand, and it's all in hex. Any label you put in, like video RAM, etc., must be contained within brackets like that, otherwise it'll ignore it. If you have a hash and a name after it, it uses that as a variable, a label, so you can do that within your code. And you can go through and you can see it's all typical assembly code. At the end of your block of code you put end. Then you've got a start, you've got a little bit of code called delay, and that is the delay, that creates a little delay, and you can see that's another block of code, so it's start, an end, and so on. And that is the code. There is other things you can do. You can actually load ASCII characters directly into it. This one I don't think has got it, but one of the other program has got it. And you just go through this. At the very end of the code, you can see, oh, there you go, I've got data, which indicates that it's raw data. That's hex data because it's an ampersand, so it's loading hex data into that address, and it's setting it at 0300 hex, loads it in. And at the end I've got an org 00, which means once it's loaded the code in, it resets the program counter or the tester back to address 0. So, you know, that's my text program, and it's just a simple text program that you just type up in that sort of format, and that is what the tester will use. So you have to put that text program in where the path is. So you know, in the last videos I showed how to set the path up with the tester. So you set the path up to where this is going to be, you store it on your tester, you can add it on a memory stick if you want, etc. And that is basically the assembly code the tester is going to use to create that bricks program. And when it compiles it, it loads it into memory. It doesn't create any bin files at that point, it loads it into memory, and then it's down to you after that. You can then create a bin file from it if you want, and do what you like with it. The other thing it will also do is when it loads it in, and when you save it, it will also create a label file named bricks.lbl, which means all the labels that you have in the program, which are all these, will be stored. So when you load it back in, the labels will come back as well, which is very important, as I'll explain. Now this video is almost about to finish, because I say I can only do small videos at a time with this phone. But the next video is I will take off from this and I'll show you how to get this text program into the tester, and then we'll run it. And then I'll also show you how to make an alteration to the text program and load it and show you the changes on the screen as it does it, to show that it is actually compiling it and it's generating genuine Z80 code. Okay, so that's the first video of showing how to develop programs on the tester.